she is now a Disney princess.
She destroyed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of IP for Disney, but she also has destroyed her career and the careers of anybody who worked on the movie.
In a stunning casting twist that is already making headlines in the entertainment industry, Disney has formally revealed that Margot Robbie will play Snow White in a brand new live-action remake. The goal of the high-profile reboot is to reset the studio's approach to the beloved character and the iconic fairy tale following the fallout from its previous disastrous adaptation.
TV Magazine wrote on X, when you compare how Rachel Ziegler spoke about Snow White to how other actresses who played live-action Disney princesses spoke about their character, really underlines just how poorly she carried herself.
Whose legacy suffered after the contentious Rachel Ziegler-led version, in which Robbie took over. Sources close to the production characterized this new version as a reconstruction rather than a continuation or a sequel, indicating Disney's clear intention to return the Snow White story to classic storytelling while maintaining a firm footing in the contemporary cinematic landscape.
People who know a lot of films do it in a way where they're like, oh, you haven't seen?
People say things like, oh, you haven't seen. The choice to recast Snow White with an actress as well known throughout the world as Margot Robbie is perceived as a planned attempt to win back the trust of moviegoers who were let down or completely demoralized by the first film, in addition to being a move toward star power.
2 delivers even more box office humiliation for Snow White.
The announcement came as a surprise to many, especially considering how recently the studio seemed to distance itself from the Snow White property altogether. That project, despite its initial fanfare, was beset by a poor reception, viral backlash, and weeks of online discourse that turned into a PR nightmare for the studio. Robbie is now taking the throne, and Disney appears intent on restoring its fairy tale gold standard.
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can.
Many people thought that Snow White would be shelved indefinitely after the previous adaptation failed to meet box office goals and received criticism for departing from the tone and core of the 1937 animated classic. However, with Margot Robbie's casting, Disney is not only reviving Snow White, it is reclaiming it. This development also highlights how quickly the studio is willing to change course when a project fails to land.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Say it louder so your other eye can hear you.
Robbie, who is well known for her captivating roles in Barbie, I, Tonya, Babylon, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, brings an A-list background to a role that frequently requires a delicate balance of innocent strength and emotional depth. Although she may seem like an unusual choice for the traditionally sweet and demure, it is important to consider how quickly it will reassemble its creative arsenal in pursuit of audience redemption. White Snow
would sort of feel the edges of truth everywhere. Young Rachel Ziegler, I would say, probably is at the point where she's believing in the excitement of it all. And who can blame her? Who can blame her? Because it is very exciting to be told you're brilliant all day long if some point in the past you felt that you were worthless, as I did.
In contrast to the previous attempt, which was widely criticized for reworking the character's motivations to fit a more empowered archetype in ways that many found disjointed, insiders say this version of the character will emphasize inner strength, kindness, and timeless grace over one-dimensional charm. It is anticipated that this version will return to the emotional core of the original while organically updating her for a modern audience.
Looking at the chat, and some of you guys were like, we need a few less Snow White-like movies. I couldn't agree with you more. Like, all this woke stuff has to end.
Unlike the first remake, which insiders claim was rife with divergent perspectives, the current project is being developed by a whole separate creative team. Disney is bringing in directors this time who are renowned for fusing style with poignant narrative in an effort to create a story that will appeal to both younger audiences and ardent fans. According to reports, music will be featured prominently once more with a reworked score that honors the original's catchy tunes while incorporating new pieces.
You know what? There's a reason for it to end right now, and it's in part because this stupid movie, Snow White, just totally bombed at the box office. They spent $270 million on this thing. They're not going to make their money back.
Fans will also be relieved that the cherished dwarfs will return faithfully, but with careful updates that respect both the source material and today's cultural sensitivities, in contrast to the previous version that cut back on musical moments. This remake is anticipated to lean into the whimsical and musical identity that made the 1937 film a genre-defining masterpiece.
And now the producer's son is coming out and blaming the whole thing on Rachel Zegler. He's not wrong. I mean, Rachel Zegler tanked this. There's a lot of other reasons they tanked it.
Disney plans to keep these characters in the upcoming version while updating their portrayal, making sure they stay true to the spirit of the original but based on more thoughtful character development and contemporary sensibilities. One of the most vocal criticisms of the previous movie was its treatment of these characters, whose removal or redesign was met with widespread confusion and backlash.
I mean, journalists weren't even invited to show up at the red carpet for the premiere because they were afraid she was going to say something that would hurt the movie even more.
According to Disney insiders, the project's objective is emotional resonance over reinvention, meaning that viewers can anticipate a return to form rather than a deconstruction. The creative team, which includes producers with backgrounds in both live-action and animated storytelling, reportedly conducted a number of internal workshops to examine what makes Snow White appealing to audiences of all ages.
It became so confused over identity politics that it turned on itself because insiders say the industry never held any true values.
The conclusion seemed obvious. The actress is coming off the huge success of Barbie, one of the most culturally impactful films of the decade, which threw her into even greater spotlight. If this new adaptation is to succeed Margot Robbie's casting, charm, romance, whimsical music, and moral clarity must remain front and center.
It's really on her to go back and correct the record now because she was spreading a lot of fear and disinformation.
Disney is undoubtedly hoping that Robbie's popularity, credibility, and demonstrated ability to strike a balance between humor and heart will give the new Snow White the kind of momentum the studio sorely needs after several shaky live-action outings. Robbie's online response has been quick and passionate, solidifying her status as one of the most bankable and versatile stars working today.
Everything has to be that. You know, this is a, and also what is beautiful about the original Snow White too is the hand-drawn animation, right? Is the beauty of the cartoon. Yeah, and it's really there's an authenticity to it.
A few purists have expressed doubts about Robbie's ability to embody the simplicity and purity that many associate with Snow White, while other fans are thrilled, calling Robbie's casting unexpected but inspired. Still others are cautiously optimistic, hoping that this version will restore the emotional weight and fairy tale magic that felt missing in the previous adaptation.
Do these orgies of CGI animation, recycling in a loveless format, the exact same, now every story is the same story about, again, a kick-ass female protagonist.
But others contend that Robbie is the ideal fit because of her versatility and capacity to humanize complicated characters. Interestingly, considering the past movie's failures in romantic and malevolent character development, the studio has yet to confirm who would play the prince and the evil queen, two characters that are essential to establishing the story's dramatic arcs. Disney is reportedly taking its time when casting these roles. The names are being kept under wraps, but preliminary rumors suggest that the studio is looking to cast Robbie's opposite with equal star power in order to keep the story balanced and steer clear of previous errors where supporting characters felt underdeveloped. Production is anticipated to start in early 2026, with a projected spring 2028 theatrical release date. Disney's extended lead time implies a methodical approach that stands in stark contrast to the hurried promotional cycle that weakened the first attempt. Additionally, insiders claim that rather than highlighting the remake's contemporary perspective, the company will refrain from politicizing or overthinking the release. According to a recent investor, Disney's approach this time will be to honor the original's heart and craftsmanship while letting the film speak for itself. This more subdued, emotionally grounded approach is already evident in the film's early concept art, where the sets are reminiscent of European storybook villages with a heightened realism and the costume designs lean into classic silhouettes with delicate embellishments. Disney appears to be aiming to generate amazement and beauty rather than controversy within its corporate structure, as evidenced by the early footage of forest concept images and animation tests that were praised for their visual richness and references to the original's painterly charm. This initiative is viewed as a crucial chance to make necessary corrections. Not only Snow White, but also the more comprehensive live-action approach the studio is aware that another error could seriously erode public confidence in its capacity to manage legacy assets following a run of disappointing reboots and dwindling box office results. Margot Robbie's Snow White is more than just a title. It's a brand reset that tells stakeholders and fans that Disney can still create enchantment. Depending on the time frame, Disney CEO Bob Chapek or his successor framed it in a public briefing or behind closed doors. The audience reportedly greeted the sentiment with enthusiastic applause, many of whom had been dubious about revisiting a franchise still scarred from its previous appearance. This is not about redoing Snow White again. Rather, it's about doing it right. We're returning to what initially made people fall in love with this story. Although Margot Robbie has not yet made an official statement, people close to the actress say she is truly honored to have been given the part and is already devoting herself to preparation. It is said that she is researching not only the Disney original but also early Grimm fairy tale versions and earlier stage adaptations in an attempt to give her performance more nuance and authenticity. Her team has made hints that they want to show Snow White as kind but not submissive, bold but not brazen, promising a complex heroine that changes organically without losing her core. With early lyrics described as hauntingly beautiful and romantic in a classic way, the soundtrack will attempt to recreate the emotional highs and lows that define the 1937 film. If successful, the music could become one of the remake's most potent assets. Disney is currently in negotiations with renowned songwriting duo names withheld for now to co-compose alongside legacy Disney lyricists. Bringing Snow White's voice to a completely new audience and overcoming generational divides, the question now is whether Disney can turn all of this ambition into something that appeals. In a time when audience trust is brittle and internet sentiment has the power to make or break a project before its debut, the stakes are high not only for Snow White but also for the studio's larger identity. Disney is relying on Margot Robbie to help turn the page. Her casting is more than a second chance. It's a cultural reboot that aims to demonstrate that despite setbacks, the House of Mouse can still tell a timeless story. If early responses are any indication, this could be the comeback Disney has been waiting for, with Robbie leading a new creative team behind the scenes and a renewed emphasis on musicality and visual storytelling. Snow White might reappear as a timeless ode to kindness, genuine enchantment, and dreams rather than as a rewritten credo. When Margot Robbie dons the crown, bites the apple, and enters the forest again, Disney knows it's not just telling a story, it's writing its own redemption arc, and that story, like Snow White's own, may yet find its happily ever after. Whether the world is ready to believe again is still up in the air, but one thing is for sure, everyone will be watching.